Welcome back, Defenders. There's a lot of news to get to. There's a brand new war in the Middle East between Israel and Iran. We'll talk about what impact this will have on Russia and Ukraine. But first, let's start with some bad news for Russia. Down by their own, Russian Su-25 hit in a friendly fire incident and caught on video. The Russians shot down their own plane. According to Russian military bloggers, the pilot did eject and the pilot did survive. So I can show you this video, nobody died. And this is a Russian Su-25 shooting down his own wingman. Now, this Russian pilot fired too early, but I imagine these Russian pilots are a bit jumpy. Now that they know Ukraine has F-16s with their own AWACS support, Russian planes are going to be spotted before they can spot Ukrainian planes. So this has them a bit jumpy to release their payload and then get out of there. There is another angle of the crash from a surveillance drone, and this is a massive fireball. I'll link this down below, but this plane was fully loaded with fuel and munitions when it went down, and the pilot is lucky to be alive. Russian bombers flee to the Far East after Operation Spiderweb attack. Tu-95 will now need 23 hours for a Ukraine missile mission. Russia is evacuating their strategic bombers from their bases basically near civilian cities, given that a rail car or a civilian truck can now deliver kamikaze drones. Russia has retreated their bombers to either Siberia or Kamchatka. So if the Russians want to fly combat missions to launch cruise missiles, this is a 23-hour flight. Not very efficient or not very effective for bombing Ukraine every single night. Slowly pushing the occupiers back, Zelensky says Ukraine is repelling the Russian advance near Sumy. We were waiting for this, Russia's big summer offensive, and if you couldn't tell it started, it started. So Russia has invaded Sumy, trying to get within artillery or FPV range of the regional capital city of Sumy. Sumy is the city, but Sumy is also the oblast. And the Russians got 3 to 5 kilometers deep, taking some of these border villages, but this was always anticipated. This is a buffer zone, a kill zone of landmines, artillery, and FPV drones. So the concern is this bend in the highway right here. If the Russians can firmly take these 3 settlements, they'll then be within artillery and FPV range of the city of Sumy, and if they do that, it's just human safari. They're just going to start indiscriminately killing civilians in the city of Sumy. So there's not much of a concern. Ukraine is fighting back. The Russians are, mildly speaking, not that successful in their new offensive. This is according to President Zelensky. Okay, let's now get to the new war in the Middle East. After years of preparation, Israel launches major offensive against Iran and its nuclear program. I'm going to start by letting the Israeli Defense Forces speak for themselves. This is the statement put out by the IDF spokesperson, and they're going to explain why Israel is doing this.
For years, the Iranian regime has called for the destruction of the State of Israel, planning and advancing concrete military plans to do so. Over the past few months, intelligence has shown that Iran is closer than ever to obtaining a nuclear weapon. This morning, the IDF began preemptive and precise strikes targeting the Iranian nuclear program in order to prevent the Iranian regime's ability to build a nuclear bomb in the immediate time frame. We have no choice. We are operating against an imminent and existential threat. We cannot allow the Iranian regime to obtain a nuclear weapon that would be a danger to Israel and the entire world. This operation is for our right to exist here, for our future and for our children's future. The State of Israel has the right and the obligation to operate in order to protect its people and will continue to do so. The IDF conducted significant preparations for this operation. We are well prepared both in defense and offense to defend ourselves. The IDF will continue to defend the State of Israel.
Israeli intelligence is saying that Iran was weeks away from having a nuclear weapon. Iran has been threatening to destroy Israel for over 50 years. And if this is true, if the intelligence is true, then I support this. Because what we've learned from Russia and what we've learned from North Korea is that if you're a dictatorial, genocidal regime, if you have nuclear weapons, you can do whatever you want. There are no consequences. If you have nukes like Russia and North Korea, you can attack whoever you want, and the international community will not stop you. So this was a preemptive first strike against Iran's nuclear facilities, something that Israel has been threatening to do really for like 20 years. Here's the map showing the nuclear sites, research reactors, uranium mines, and then military sites related to their nuclear program. And they're not pretending here. This is a real war where Israel is trying to completely annihilate Iran. Israel's Air Force lunges with 200 warplanes, 60% of its air fleet, in the biggest attack on Iran ever. Israel's total fighter fleet numbers about 330 jets, meaning the operation mobilized about 60% of their entire air force. This was a planning that probably has been years in the works. What would they bomb? Where would they bomb? Who would they take out? And, I mean, the information is coming in, but this is just pure chaos. This first strike from Israel is overwhelming and completely devastating for Iran. Iran, all of their air defense systems have been destroyed somehow, and Israel has air superiority over the capital city of Tehran. Israel is bombing whatever they want, and Iran can't stop Israel's air force. Some of these satellite images from their nuclear facilities are coming in. This is the Isfahan uranium conversion facility. This was struck. There are some satellite images. This is Iran's nato nuclear enrichment facility. I can scroll through these, but a lot of Iran's facilities are deep underground because they were expecting air attacks. So Israel has to use special bunker-busting cruise missiles in order to collapse these underground structures. We don't know how bad the damage is because the damage is underground. And these are nuclear and enrichment facilities, and there is reports of radiological and chemical contamination inside the facilities. There's no risk of a nuclear yield. There's not going to be any kind of detonation. But yes, this is radioactive and hazardous chemicals being blown everywhere. Uranium hexafluoride is used in enrichment, and it's a very nasty substance. I wouldn't want to be involved in the cleanup efforts after this is all over. This was in the last 24 hours, but Israel has now started striking Iran's gas-producing facilities. This is the Fajar Jam gas refining company, and it processes up to 125 million cubic meters of gas per day. Israel is bombing this. This is Iran's South Pars Phase 14 refinery. It's currently on fire. Israel employs drone tactics used in Ukraine's Operation Spiderweb to turn Iran's nuclear dreams to ashes. This Operation Spiderweb, which took place 2 weeks ago, Israel just did the exact same thing. They pre-placed containers and trucks that had drones fly out, and then the drones destroyed critical assets, probably air defense systems. So this is the Iranians, civilians, discovering one of these Israeli trucks in which kamikaze FPV drones took off from the roof, hitting anything and everything. This was insane. Israel eliminates Iranian commander who helped Russia to kill hundreds of Ukrainians with kamikaze drones. This was a decapitation first strike, and I have no sympathy for Iran's military leadership. This guy, Amir Ali Hajizadeh was the commander of the Air Force of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard. Here's a picture of him meeting with Shoigu. This is probably 2022, in which Iran started supplying kamikaze drones to Russia. And this guy is now dead, along with all of Iran's top commanders. This guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy, all confirmed dead in the first 24 hours. Because Israel had the intelligence where they would be, and Israel has the best intelligence in the world. They have spies and agents on the ground in Iran, probably on the general staffs of these commanders, and Israel's in it to win it here. The Ayatollah Khomeini put out a televised response stating Iran's armed forces will bring the vile Zionist regime to its knees. And they're trying. Iran is doing what they can to respond. They're launching ballistic missiles and drones. Here is a video captured by a resident of Tel Aviv showing an Iranian Shahed drone flying over their city. I think the residents of Ukraine are familiar with that sound and recognize that silhouette. There are smaller rockets being fired from Iran's proxies in Lebanon. This is Hezbollah. These are rocket alarms sounding, and civilians in Israel have to take cover. They have to prepare for this. And this is what the sky over Tel Aviv looks like as Iran is trying to launch whatever they can get off the ground. This is Israel's Iron Dome system, shooting down slow-moving drones. I don't know how effective it is at high-speed ballistic missiles. And Israel is taking hits. Iran has successfully struck them on-the-ground residential areas. This is the aftermath of a ballistic missile impacting a residential area of Tel Aviv. But it's not actually been that much. Iran has used significantly fewer munitions in its response to Israel than originally planned because Israeli defense forces destroyed and damaged missile launchers and silos that Iran planned to use in its retaliatory strike. So, of course, Israel wants to go after these nuclear facilities before stuff is moved or goes deeper underground. But yeah, Israel was being mindful that a retaliatory strike would come, so they went after silos and transporter erectors and any missile sites in which Israel was planning to strike, in which Iran was planning to strike Israel. Israel vows more is on the way as Iranian missiles kill 1 and injure 41. I don't know what the current casualty count is of civilians in Israel, but even if 1 dies, Israel is going to have their vengeance. And let's actually zoom out. If you're not familiar with the history and the politics and the complication of the Middle East, I'm going to do my best to explain it to you. But basically, in the Muslim world, it's about 70 to 80% Sunni majority. So worldwide, Sunnis, it's kind of like Catholics and Protestants, but they're just different sects of Islam. Sunnis are the majority in the world. But in the Middle East, the Shia are actually the majority. And the Shia are based out of Iran. The Sunnis make up the Arab world as well as the Turks. And Iran, since the mullahs came to power, they want to control Mecca and Medina. The Shia of Iran think that they should be the ones in charge of the holy sites of Mecca and Medina. They're located down here. They're currently being controlled by Saudi Arabia. Iran's population is roughly 2 to 3 times larger than Saudi Arabia. So this religious war in the Islamic world has been building for decades. And the Iranians do want to use their military to just swing through the Arabian Peninsula. They would topple the governments and conquer the Qataris, the Emiratis, and the Kuwaitis. They already basically control Iraq. So the Saudis have known this forever, that at some point in the future, The Shia are going to move on them and try and gain control of the holy sites. And Iran has been using proxies to commit acts of terrorism. This Shia pocket down here, these are the Houthis you hear about in Yemen. There's also the Shia in Lebanon as well as Syria. Iran is, their public strategy is a ring of fire to destroy Israel. Israel is located right here. So these different factions in the Middle East have been realigning over the last decades, and we've now gotten to the point where the Sunnis, the Saudis, are okay if Israel wants to make their move and destroy Iran, try and get some kind of revolution or collapse of their government so the threat to Saudi Arabia goes away. I think this has been the plan for the last 6 months. There definitely was something going on behind the scenes that you and I didn't know, and it's now starting to become apparent. Netanyahu meets Trump at Mar-a-Lago, capping trip marked by Gaza protests. This was last July. This was 11 months ago that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu went down to Florida when Trump was just the Republican nominee. He wasn't president yet. And look who's sitting at the table. There's Witkoff, sitting 2 people away from Trump, meeting with the Israeli Prime Minister. So what happened, guys, is Israel always wanted to do this. A first strike against Iran's nuclear facilities with the larger goal of regime change in Iran. And they wanted Trump's support. And in exchange, they said, we'll help elect you president. This is the Israeli Prime Minister at Mar-a-Lago interfering in the US election, throwing the full weight, money, power, influence of Israel behind the Republican Party and Donald Trump to get Trump elected, to get as many Republicans elected as possible, in order so that Israel could have the United States' support for a first strike against Iran. Joe Biden never would have been okay with this. Kamala Harris never would have been okay with this. So Israel tipped the scales to make sure that Trump was elected so that this week could happen. It's bizarre. It's bizarre how dominant and alpha Trump always claims he is. But when the Prime Minister of Israel shows up, he basically turns into his butler. He could not be any more deferent or docile or subservient to the Prime Minister of Israel. These clips are from February 5th and April 7th. Trump pushing in his chair, and Trump doesn't do this for the leader of France. He doesn't do this for Zelensky. I, as an American, don't understand the power and control that Israel has over our governments, over everything. So I'm going to give you guys my personal politics because I know in the comments section people are going to be fighting. And I 100% support Israel's right to exist. Iran and their proxies are trying to destroy the state of Israel. That's not okay. Israel is acting in self-defense. I also believe that Hamas is a terrorist organization and should be destroyed. October 7th was horrific. With that said, why is Benjamin Netanyahu still in charge of this country? He has been prime minister for almost 20 years. And he's not been prime minister for 20 years because he's the best guy to lead Israel. I believe he's corrupt. I believe he wants more power for himself. He has autocratic tendencies. And I don't think he's been conducting these wars in the most ethical way. I think this is about ethnic cleansing and wanting to relocate Palestinians from their homeland to other countries, such as Jordan and now Libya. Israel would never be okay at this point with a two-state solution. There will never be peace. They've accepted that, and they're willing to do anything to secure their people and secure their homeland. It's a dark situation. It's complicated. I understand that. But I don't understand why Benjamin Netanyahu never goes away. Why can't we get rid of this guy? Why can't we let somebody else lead Israel and do a better job? Why, after October 7th, wasn't he removed from power? The intelligence failure on October 7th was Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's fault. I think he should be held accountable. I think he should be in jail. Whether the Israelis want to hold him accountable themselves, or if he is eventually someday sent to the ICC. I can't stand this guy. But I am going to play this clip because he's calling for regime change. He's calling for the people of Iran to rise up and overthrow their own governments.
Tonight I wish to speak to you, the proud people of Iran. We're in the midst of one of the greatest military operations in history, Operation Rising Lion. The Islamic regime, which has oppressed you for nearly 50 years, threatens to destroy my country, the State of Israel. The objective of Israel's military operation is to remove this threat, both the nuclear threat and the ballistic missile threat to Israel. And as we achieve our objectives, we're also clearing the path for you to achieve your objective, which is freedom. In the past 24 hours, we've taken out top military commanders, senior nuclear scientists, the Islamic regime's most significant enrichment facility, and a large portion of its ballistic missile arsenal. More is on the way. The regime doesn't know what hit them. They don't know what will hit them. The nation of Iran and the nation of Israel have been true friends since the days of Cyrus the Great.
I can't stand this guy. So let's talk about Russia and what is their response. Putin condemns Israeli strikes on Iran, says it's ready to mediate. And this might be the most insane statement ever put out by Russia's foreign ministry. Irony is dead. This is what the Russians are saying. Unprovoked military strikes on a sovereign UN member state, its citizens, sleeping peaceful cities, and nuclear energy infrastructure facilities are categorically unacceptable. The international community cannot afford to be indifferent to such atrocities that destroy peace and damage regional and international security. Wow. And this is pretty ironic because Russia and Iran just signed a 20-year strategic partnership agreement 5 months ago. This signing took place on January 19th. This is not a coincidence. January 19th was the day before Trump was inaugurated president on January 20th, and I think Iran was suspicious that Israel or the United States was going to attack them, so they lobbied to get Putin to sign this strategic partnership agreement, guaranteeing the security of both nations, and I'll play for you the clip. Putin was there. Putin signed the document basically saying, Iran is our military ally, and we are going to work with and protect Iran for the next 20 years.
И президент Исламской Республики Иран Масуд Пезешкиан подписывают договор о всеобъемлющем стратегическом партнерстве между Российской Федерацией и Исламской Республикой Иран.
در خاتمه مذاکرات فیمابین جمهوری اسلامی ایران و فدراسیون روسیه در سطح عالی، رئیس جمهور فدراسیون روسیه جناب آقای ولادیمیرچ پوتین و رئیس جمهور اسلامی ایران جناب آقای مسعود پزشکیان معاهده مشارکت جامعه راهبرد.
Why a 20-year agreement, and that's how much longer Putin plans on being Tsar of Russia. So what is Russia going to do? That their main military ally is now being destroyed by Israel. And I'm pretty distraught, guys. Like, I'm starting to think this was the plan all along. The last 6 months was all nonsense. It didn't make any sense to me. But now that Israel has carried out this first strike, and they've been planning this operation for years, it's starting to make sense. Why the United States has been so preferable towards the Russians over Ukraine. And I think this is the under-the-table agreement. Israel and the United States were telling the Russians, we'll look the other way as you destroy Ukraine, but you have to look the other way when we destroy Iran. I don't know if the Russians ever formally agreed to this, But I think this is what was being offered by Witkoff and Marco Rubio. Russia will let you continue destroying Ukraine, but when we move to destroy Iran, don't help Iran. Don't get involved. We'll stay out of your business. You stay out of our business. This is the project for the new American century. I understand Donald Trump is supposed to be the anti-establishment candidate, getting elected to fight the deep state. But this is the deep state. This has been the plan since 1997. These are Reaganites. These are neocons. This is the deep state. It's always been the plan to reshape the Middle East by toppling governments. In 2022, the United States went into Afghanistan, took control of the country. Israel is basically the bookend on the other side. And the goal was always, for the last 25 years, regime change in Syria, regime change in Iraq, and regime change in Iran. The United States went into Iraq in 2003. The government of Syria fell on its own last year. And if they take Iran, the neocons won. Donald Trump led them to victory. This is the deep state. It's so stupid, guys. I mean, I should be really careful what I say and how I react, because a lot of people potentially are going to die. If Iran de-evolves into revolution, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people are going to die. I have no love for the government of Iran, but I don't want to see the people of Iran to suffer. They've been suffering for 50 years. Destruction of Iran's nuclear program means Trump has no reason to offer Putin concessions on Ukraine in exchange for Tehran's pressure. This was one of the negotiating talk points that Trump was trying to get a deal with Iran, and Russia was going to help the United States negotiate with Iran. All of that is irrelevant now, because I do think, I don't know how Iran's government is going to survive this, because I don't think Israel is going to stop until they're all dead. Israel's attack on Iran may have revived Moscow's oil revenues for war. This is going to be a headline because this gets people's attention, but the price of oil is basically back to where it was in April. Not really a huge spike, and unless the entire Persian Gulf shuts down, because the Iranians can somehow block the Straits of Hormuz, I don't see oil going back to $100 a barrel anytime soon, but yeah, I could get back to 80 or maybe even 90, which is where it was a little over a year ago. Let's check in with Igor Girkin. This is Strelkov. Putin put him in jail almost 2 years ago, and he's still alive, and he still puts out information through his wife and lawyer. And this is Russian analysis of how this war in Iran is bad for Russia. First and foremost, the termination of our southern corridor, since we are actively using Iran to supply oil and other raw materials to India and other countries. This route was quite important for us. Now in the east, we only have China left as a transit route for our goods. Secondly, of course, as Iran is subjected to more and more attacks and loses an increasing number of industrial facilities, it won't be able to supply us with weapons and ammunition as it did before, which will also affect the course of our military operations. So yeah, if Iran is destroyed, they can't militarily help Russia anymore, but the geography of Iran is very important. The Russians use the Caspian Sea to transit oil and gas and materials through Iran to India. So things are loaded up at Astrakhan. They then sail through the Caspian Sea. They're unloaded in Iran and then fed down to the Gulf of Oman. Yeah, this is really bad for Russia. Really bad for Russia. Let's cover some U.S. political news real quick. Final decision is still in the White House. Zelensky hopes to push Trump for tougher Russian sanctions at the G7. So Zelensky and Trump are going to meet again relatively soon at a G7 summit, as well as I think a NATO conference. And it's another 2 opportunities for Zelensky to somehow reach Trump and get him to agree to do something productive. Reagan stood his ground. Republicans lose patience with Trump's escalation management. I thought Joe Biden was weak, and Joe Biden was all about escalation management. Key Republican Senator Chuck Grassley said, had the West given the Ukrainians what they needed earlier, they might have pushed Russia out of their country by now. Senator Lindsey Graham tweets about Ukraine every day, saying his sanctions bill now has 80 co-sponsors, 82 co-sponsors, 84 co-sponsors. But where's the debates? Where's the votes? And it's not been brought to a vote because Donald Trump keeps telling Republicans in Congress, don't talk about this, don't vote on this yet. Graham's frequent use of the phrase overwhelming support for the sanctions bill is becoming Trump's 2 more weeks. Putin clearly doesn't think they'll really do anything other than reduce aid to Ukraine, which they actually did. Putin is the poker player, the bluffer with a weak hand but even weaker opponents, who keep folding their winning cards. Trump, Macron, Starmer, Merz, so much talk. Western leaders have blustered and caved so many times that there is no longer any credible deterrence, only action. Agreements don't do anything. Meetings don't do anything. Appearances don't do anything. We need governments in the West to actually take action. Overwhelming force is the only thing Russia respects. Trump quietly okays another $30 million arms transfer for Ukraine. The United States is still delivering weapons to Ukraine, and they're still supplying intelligence and technical support. I imagine this $30 million package is critical things that only the United States can provide, and something politically has to change, and could change drastically in the next week or two. Let's check in with the Russian military. How are they holding up? And I saw this clip and I wanted to share it with you. 3.5 years into this war, and Russia still doesn't know how to deliver clean drinking water to their soldiers on the front lines. So these are Russian soldiers showing where and how they get their drinking water.
Воду, блядь. Хохлячие бутылки, блядь. Да, хуля воды нет, нихуя, блядь. На передок никто не носит, он там из-под корней вода есть, блядь. Так и живем.
Who's thirsty? It's a hot summer. This is a good piece of news for Ukraine. EU votes to shelter 4 million Ukrainians fleeing Putin's escalating bombing campaign until 2027. So I think the protected status of refugees in the EU was just extended for another 2 years. Correct move. Thank you so much. Final video is once again from Yaroslava. This was, I guess, an art installation put in the Sofia Square in Kyiv. And it's a black cloud over Ukraine. Abstract art is supposed to make you think or make you feel something even if you don't understand what you're feeling or can explain what you're thinking, but I saw this and it definitely stood out to me, so I applaud whatever artist put this up. That's all for this update video. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up, best way to support the channel. Comments and questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, keep defending the truth, keep defending democracy.